5 on 20 News, where the newscasters are late and the news is later, with Ani Squintella
and Chris Amon, coming to you live from our studio in downtown Tucson.
First, the local headlines.
On Saturday, Tucson will hold a sister march to coincide with the Women's March on Washington. The Old Pueblo joins cities across the country which have organized events in solidarity with those marching in D.C. More than 4,000 Tucsonans have indicated on Facebook that they will hit the streets this Saturday in protest of the election of Donald Trump, who activists say threatens the civil rights of women. On the campaign trail, Trump has said that he seeks to reverse Roe versus Wade and will establish a Muslim registry, just to name a few of his brilliant ideas. A grandmother in Hawaii thought up the idea to get some of her friends together and march on the Capitol. Her story went viral and has since been shared on Facebook by 581,000 people, with 153,000 people pledging to take part in the DC March. The National Park Service gave a permit for 200,000 people to gather in the Capitol. Meanwhile, Arizona anti-Trumpers will descend on their city's Capitol buildings. Organizers say that even though it's marketed as a women's march, the event is open to anyone. The march begins at 10 a.m. and will run until noon or whenever the police get frisky. If nothing else, the troll-in-chief to tweet will probably tweet about you, which is a good story for the grandkids.
Confirmations for Trump's pick for Secretary of Education ended yesterday, and Tucson charter schools are excited about the prospects. Betsy DeVos, the incoming education secretary, is a backer of charter schools in her native state of Michigan. Charter supporters in Tucson say that DeVos has been improving education for students by promoting school choice, which they hope to see more of with the new administration. Arizona has some of the highest charter school enrollment numbers in the country, with 547 charter schools in operation. But public school educators fear the tenor of DeVos and claim that the growth of charter schools will further erode public education in the U.S. Mark Jorenstad, the director for Arizona School Administration, says that DeVos' support for private education is moving the state closer to using school vouchers. He says that there's no agency to see where parents will spend their vouchers, and academic accountability is lacking because privately run schools are not required to take standardized tests. Misty Arthur, director of the Arizona Federation of Teachers, agrees, saying that she sees no need in privatizing education. Rather, she says that the U.S. needs to spend more to improve the nation's public school system.
An Arizona appeals court ruled that owners of a ministry cannot avoid paying income taxes because they took a vow of poverty. Frederick and Elizabeth Garner of Bethel Aram Ministries in Dewey, Arizona, said that they took a vow of poverty in 1999 and divested themselves from the church's earnings. A 3-judge panel said that so-called maintenance payments to the ministry should be included as income, since the Gardners were in control of the ministry's accounts. They ruled that the vow of poverty was used to take advantage of money given to the ministry. They said that the Gardners retained control over the ministry's finances. The court said that the ministry did not even have a congregation for years, but the two traveled the country offering business consulting services. The Gardners charged $1,200 to set up a corporation and $700 for a limited liability corporation. Court documents showed that the Gardners set up 300 corporations and 18 LLCs. The couple didn't file tax returns from 2002 to 2004 and refused to hand over records to the IRS. But the IRS was later able to discover deposits of more than $600,000 to the ministry, $550,000 of which was taxable. In his defense, Frederick Garner said that he was only doing what Jesus would have done.
Students at the University of Arizona are protesting against the minimum wage exemptions for state workers, which include employees at the university. Proposition 206 was passed in November, which would raise the state's minimum wage to $10. But state agencies are exempt from any minimum wage raises. Many U of A students say this is not fair because they are struggling to get by while having to complete their coursework. But the university says that if they had to raise their wage, then tuition prices would have to rise with it. After all, they have to pay President Ann Weaver Hart's $475,000 per year salary. If the minimum wage were raised, the university says that it would cost them $8 million and $26 million for the state's university system. State education officials will meet in February to discuss the issue, but say that there is little chance of overturning the exemption. On the upside, graduates can look forward to getting a whole $10 an hour once they graduate.
Pima County is seeking volunteers to count homeless people on the morning of January 25th. They say that the count is important because it impacts how much federal money the county will receive to help the homeless. The Department of Housing and Urban Development requires cities to do a count of their homeless to qualify for federal funds. As of 2016, there were 1,765 homeless people in Pima County, but the county has been active in trying to reduce the numbers, particularly among homeless veterans. To register to volunteer, visit the website of the Tucson-Pima Collaboration to End Homelessness at tpch.net and click on Join the 2017 Street Count.
The University of Arizona has received a grant that would enable graduate students to study water sustainability in Latin America. The university won the 100,000 Strong in the Americas Innovation Fund grant for the fourth time, more than any other university in the U.S. The grant will allow 10 grad students seeking dual master's degrees in environmental sciences and engineering to find solutions to provide clean water in some of the poorest areas of the world. The University of Concepcion in Chile and the National Autonomous University of Mexico are partnering with the university. The program's director says that training future professionals to develop water reuse systems requires a collaborative and international approach, something the program provides. Students will spend 1 year at their home institution before spending another year at one of the partner universities.
Tucson's annual Dillinger Days is back this weekend for a series of events around the city. The event celebrates the capture of infamous gangster John Dillinger, who was arrested in Tucson's Hotel Congress in 1934. A fire at the hotel led the police to the discovery of Dillinger. The event begins Friday with a Dillinger speakeasy at Hotel Congress from 7 to 10 p.m. The party then moves on to Saturday, where Toole Avenue to Congress Street will be closed off from 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. for a gangster-themed block party. For a full schedule of events, visit the Hotel Congress website at hotelcongress.com. Now, in national and international news.
Confirmation hearings for Trump's choice for Secretary of Education ended yesterday, and it was kind of a disaster. Betsy DeVos, an heir of the Amway Prince family fortune, was subjected to a brutal line of questioning from the Senate Democrats, mostly related to past funding of conservative advocacy groups through the Prince Family Foundation. Senator Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire asked DeVos about her family foundation's funding of anti-gay causes, including those that use scientifically bunk gay conversion therapies. DeVos replied that she was not a member of the foundation's board at the time. However, Senator Patty Murray then pointed out that the foundation's 990 forms show that Betsy was vice president of the foundation's board at the time. DeVos cited a clerical error for the problem and maintained that she wasn't involved. In other words, she lied to Congress. Perhaps the clerk who made this error is the same guy auditing Trump's taxes. Later in the day, journalist Jeremy Shahil of The Intercept tweeted a picture of the request for correction document of the Prince Family Foundation. It was dated January 17th and sought to remove Betsy's name from the list of directors. What coincidental timing! DeVos was also asked about allowing guns in school, an issue that conservatives back because they say it will solve the problem of school shootings. DeVos replied with the odd answer that, yes, some schools should allow guns because they need them to shoot grizzlies. It was only after the confirmation ended that it was discovered that grizzlies are a nickname for misbehaving students.
Yesterday, President Obama made his final news conference and once again made us feel terrible about what awaits us on Friday. Obama reflected a positive mood in his place, saying, quote, "At my core, I think we're going to be okay." And no, he didn't appear to be kidding. Obama had some parting words for President-elect Donald Trump, who he said would get a reality check once he sees how complicated it is to be the president. But he said Trump won't realize this until he's sworn in and sitting behind his desk, where he will likely spend his first day trying to find where the shut down the media button is located. Obama's final piece of advice to Trump was to rely on others around him, and that the president can't do the job by himself. On Twitter, Trump reminded the president that he has the Russians to help him. Obama leaves the office with a near record-setting 60% approval rate. Yet he didn't gloat about it, which Trump called unpresidential.
Turkey and Russia conducted their first joint strikes against Islamic State militants in Syria yesterday. The bombings were in the Syrian suburb of Al-Bab, outside of Aleppo. Last month, Turkey suffered heavy casualties in the area when they fought ISIS troops on the ground. Oddly enough, the two countries support opposing sides in the war. Back in 2015, Turkey funded opponents of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, while Russia has long backed the dictator. The U.S. also bombed the same area earlier this week, also in cooperation with Turkey. It's also odd that Russia is working together with a NATO member like Turkey, as Vladimir Putin has criticized NATO for aggression towards Russia. If this wasn't complex enough, Turkey is looking to root out Kurdish militants who are also fighting in Syria and who are allies of the U.S. Enemies, friends, who the hell knows when it comes to Syria?
Researchers in Utah claim that a protein found in elephants appears to attack and destroy cancer cells in humans. Dr. Joshua Schiffman of the Huntsman Center said that elephants have 55 million years of evolution to design the perfect cancer-fighting protein. He said that statistically, most elephants should get cancer due to their size and the number of cells in their bodies. But in reality, elephants rarely get cancer. Schiffman and his team synthesized a protein called P53, the protein found in the blood of elephants. The team found that the protein killed cancer cells quickly in lab results. Next up, they will produce more of the protein and test it on mice and eventually dogs in partnership with an Israeli lab. Schiffman says if the results continue to be positive, then human trials could begin as soon as 3 years from now. But he says that the lab will need to raise about $2 million to carry out the trials. Fortunately, there are plenty of elephants looking for work after Ringling Brothers announced they will be closing up shop.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is charging the student loan provider Navient of illegally failing their borrowers. Navient was formerly part of Sallie Mae before spinning off on their own. The company is accused of creating obstacles for tens of thousands of student loan borrowers who sought lower payments. Since 2009, the Obama administration allowed repayment plans based on a borrower's income. However, the CFPB says that Navient supplied incorrect borrower information, processed payments incorrectly, and failed to act when the borrowers complained. The company was found to have misallocated payments and continued to do so for several months, even after complaints were made. They also steered some borrowers into forbearance, where they wouldn't have to make payments, but interest accrues. Navient also is said to have deceived borrowers about the requirements to release a cosigner, usually a parent or relative, from the loan. As we reported yesterday, adults over the age of 60 are suffering from an increase in student debt, mostly from co-signing loans for their kids. Navient services loans for over 12 million borrowers, including over 6 million loans covered under the U.S. Department of Education, adding up to $300 billion overall. The CFPB also went after Pioneer Credit Recovery, a subsidiary of Navient who specializes in debt collections on student loans. To apply further pressure, CFPB founder Elizabeth Warren broke the kneecaps of a Pioneer debt collector, telling him he was short on the vig.
The CIA has released 13 million pages of declassified documents online, totaling about 800,000 files. Some of the documents include records of UFO sightings and strange mind-reading experiments involving celebrity psychic Uri Geller. The files also include the papers of former Nixon and Ford Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, although the ones involving dead hookers are still classified. While the information has technically been publicly available, they were difficult to access because they were housed on 4 computers in the back of the National Archives in Maryland. Merck Rock, a Boston-based nonprofit specializing in making freedom of information requests, sued the CIA to get the files released. Journalist Mike Best also raised $15,000 from crowdfunding to visit the archives and print out the documents, then upload the records to apply further pressure on the CIA. The CIA announced in November that they would release the files, and they are now available on the CIA library website. Spoiler alert, aliens do not exist, and their leader is Reince Priebus.
Looks like Donald Trump's surprise win has been an inspiration for rich douchebags all around the world. And now it looks as though Canada may be getting its own version of Trump. Canadian entrepreneur and reality TV star Kevin O'Leary announced that he will run for the country's Conservative Party. O'Leary joins 13 other contenders competing to be crowned king of the Conservatives, who will pick their candidate on May 27th after a ceremonial wrestling match fought in a tub of maple syrup. Former Conservative leader Stephen Harper stepped down after his loss to current Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. O'Leary is pitching himself as a business-minded, fiscally conservative candidate who claims that he's the only candidate who can beat Justin Trudeau. While O'Leary has praised Trump in the past, he does stop short of endorsing Trump's policies on immigration. He criticized another Conservative candidate for a plan that would screen immigrants for their level of Canadian values, which would include professing love for poutine, bags of milk, and Tim Hortons. O'Leary appeared on the popular reality TV show Shark Tank and, like Trump, has no previous government experience. In other words, he's a shoo-in. He also has taken a liking to Twitter, although Trump has called his tweets sad and low energy. O'Leary once floated a proposal which would have allowed wealthy individuals to buy a seat in the upper house of Parliament. Oddly enough, lately O'Leary has begun draping a yellow coonskin cap on his head and dyeing his skin with orange peels. In classic Canadian understatement, O'Leary's campaign slogan reads, Make Canada above average again."
This was Chris Amon
And Anias Quintella
for 5 on 20 News. Next up, Anais fills us in on arts and culture in the Old Pueblo.
What's up, Tucson? My name is Anias Quintella, and I'm here to let you in on some of the stimulating and strange art and culture-related happenings in the Old Pueblo. As per usual, Tucson isn't lacking in creative events, so let's get started. MoCA will be hosting one of their Art Now events this evening. Art Now is an open-format lecture in which guests are encouraged to participate, share, and engage in talks related to what MoCA refers to as the art of our time. Tonight's event features Debbie Chase Mabey as a special guest, who is the executive director of the Arts Foundation for Tucson and Southern Arizona. The event begins at 6 p.m. Admission is free for MoCA members and $10 for non-members. It will include refreshments. The 2017 Sundance Film Festival begins today, and if you didn't snag your tickets in time, there is still hope. No, I can't get you a press pass, but I can let you in on a little taste of the ghost of Sundance's past. The Loft Cinema is screening the Sundance Film Festival 2016 Short Film Tour, which showcases 8 short films selected from the most recent festival, including a wide array of fiction, documentary, animation, and more. The short films include Affections, a comedy about loneliness directed by Bridgely Elliott, Jungle, a French drama about 2 Senegalese vendors working in New York directed by Asantewaa Prempeh, Edmund, an animated stop-motion film directed by Nina Gantz, Bacon and God's Wrath, a short documentary about a Jewish woman trying bacon for the first time, directed by Sol Friedman, The Grandfather Drum, an animated film directed by Michel Desrosiers, The Procedure, a film about a man forced to undergo a bizarre operation, directed by Calvin Lee Reeder, Her Friend Adam, a story about a boyfriend's jealous impulses, directed by Ben Petrie, and Thunder Road, a film in which Jimmy Arnaud eulogizes his mother, directed by Jim Cummings. The short film tour will screen tonight at Loft Cinema at 7:30 p.m. In other local happenings is the Winter Art Show at Hermano's Craft Beer and Wine Bar. The Winter Show will feature paintings by artists Kate Mayer, Liz Vaughn, Jeremy Singer, Ed Murin III, Robin Savage, Alexandria Winslow, and Lisa Canuse. And they are kicking things off tonight with live performances, artists and music by Things That Aren't Words. You can join in on the fun from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at 220 North 4th Avenue. And for anyone trying to figure out what the hell to do with themselves on the much-dreaded Inauguration Day, tomorrow at 5 p.m., the recently launched Meow magazine will host a civic engagement dance party. The event hopes to turn discontent into positive action, featuring speakers Najima Jamala, Zaira Livier, and Abdillah Segal. From 5 to 8 p.m., there will be a volunteer fair with community groups to help you learn more about how to get active. After the fair, the event will morph into a party with live musical performances from acts such as DJ Butterfly, Zakajulu, and Silver Fox. If all of this wasn't enough to pique your interest, there will also be a raffle, taco trucks, and a Trump piñata. The event will be 21 plus with a $4 cover, and it starts at 5 p.m. at 191 Toole. If you're lucky, you might just catch a couple of the beautiful 5 on 20 news team faces there. Last but not least, Monsoon Collective will be hosting their closeout reception Saturday starting at 9 p.m. at 127 South 5th Avenue. For anyone who still hasn't seen this at the Real pop-up art exhibit, this will be your last chance to catch it in all of its colorful glory. The event will feature a musical performance by Beer Money, and there will be a $10 cover. That's all I've got for you this week. Make sure to check back in here next Thursday to get the scoop on all things local art and culture. Stay filthy and have a happy Thursday, Tucson.